You are listening to Esoteric Discussions with Valentine St. Aubin on Peterborough FM, www.peterborough.fm.
Hello and welcome to Esoteric Discussions with me, your host, Valentine St. Aubin, a show where we go deep down into the rabbit hole. You can catch me every other Wednesday evening from 9 here on Peterborough FM and online. If you want to learn more about me, please visit my website at valentinesaintaubin.co.uk. So it's the 22nd of February 2012, and well, we're almost about to complete the second month of this very strange year, and well, it has been a strange year so far, and we knew that it would be, so that's not a surprise, but there are definitely strange things afoot, let's say. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who also agreed that there's a quiet before the storm kind of feeling in the air, and there is definitely a storm brewing. We've had the Illuminati satanic ritual at the Superbowl by Madonna, and then that was followed by Nicki Minaj's performance at the Grammys, and then we've had the death of Whitney Houston. So very strange events, one after the other, and of course we have the intensification of the West against Iran and Syria, as well as the ongoing financial problems that we're facing, the complete collapse of our financial systems here in the Western world. It's not collapsing everywhere else, but it's collapsing in certain countries within the Western world, and that's obviously due to the greed, the abuse that's been going on for quite some time now. This is not new, it's just that it's hit a crescendo point. So other things going on, there's been strange signs in the sky, and also strange sightings of things. So I'm going to try to take a few minutes. I've given myself a little bit of time to address some of these issues. I won't have time to talk about everything right now, but we can talk about a couple of them because they're quite pertinent to 2012 and where we are on the timeline, what's going on, and why these things why they are happening, you know. So let's first talk about later in the show I'm going to be joined by Tony Bourdet, who is he's a personal trainer and he's a nutritionist, and we're going to be talking about the importance of exercise and eating the right kinds of food. So he'll be coming on shortly. But before I get to that, I just wanted to go over some of these things that I had just raised to you. So let's start with the solar flares, because we're coming into a cycle of intense solar flares. And we go through like an 11-year cycle with these solar flares. So we have what we call the solar minimum, and then we have the solar maximum. And the solar maximum was supposed to have started around 2010, and it didn't actually kick off the way that the scientists had expected. NASA has since revised their schedule for the maximum frequency of these solar storms. They actually put out a new report and a new warning around October time last year in 2011 to say that the solar maximum would now be kicking off around 2012 to 2013. The problem here is this. The solar maximum is supposed to be kicking off right now, and we are having intense solar flares. It's not that we haven't had any, and we just recently had a very strong burst of solar flares at the beginning of January, around the 20th or 22nd or something like that of January, that caused all of the wonderful northern lights in the skies here across in Britain and in parts of Europe as well. So we are having solar flares. It's not that we're not having them, but there seems to be an issue going on, and the issue is the sun is doing something strange, and the scientists don't actually know what the why and the issue as to why the solar flares aren't being frequent when they're supposed to be in the solar maximum, but the sun is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it's got everybody looking a bit silly, to be honest, because they're having to put their hands up in the air and say, well, we don't really know what is going on. Now there is a bit of detail here to bring in, because they're not being fully honest when they're saying that they don't actually know what's going on, because they do. One of the reasons for the infrequent solar flares that's happening right now is because of this object which we call Planet X. Now, whether you're a Planet X believer or not, it doesn't matter. You know, you don't have to believe something for something to be real. There's certainly enough evidence to show that there is something of a very large mass sitting very close to the sun, and it's causing problems. So that would be one of the main reasons for the infrequency of the solar flares. It's basically blocking the sun, and it's because everything has a pole. It has a north pole, south pole, and it's got something to do with the magnetics of this planet affecting the sun. So it's all very complicated. But of course NASA can't go on record and say anything about Planet X because they've been keeping it secret. They don't want you to know about Planet X because Planet X comes with quite a backlog of issues, namely that it is a inhabited planet. All of the ancient civilizations know about this planet. There's records of them talking about it. This is the planet where all the gods came from. So for the ancients, this is not a new issue. They've known about this planet. They know that it comes in and out of our solar system. They had different names for it. We call it Planet X, Nibiru. That's what the Sumerians called it, Nibiru. You know, so we're the ones that don't know. And we don't know because they've kept it silent. Because then if they acknowledge this planet, then they have to acknowledge quite a few other things, and they don't want to do that. They want to hold on to these secrets for themselves. They want to keep people in the dark. That's how these people operate. So that's basically the problem with the solar flares, is that there is this object there sort of blocking the sun and making the sun do strange things. Nevertheless, we are aware that we are getting very extreme solar flares when we're getting them, and we've been quite lucky so far. And the warning that NASA has put out is that they are expecting very severe solar flares that are going to affect the communications, the satellites, the power grids. They are not announcing this openly, But if you look for it, you can see them talking about it. It's been on various news channels. This has been in the newspapers. So it's not top secret. But if you ask the average person about this, they're going to say that they have heard nothing. So, that's the warning. They have given the warning. It's up to you to do the legwork and find out this information for yourself. There is a remote viewer by the name of Major Ed Dames, who was a remote viewer. He worked for the CIA many years ago as part of a secret remote viewing task force. And he and a group of remote viewers that he's worked with have, quite a few years ago, they looked into the timeline, because you can do that. This thing that, we create what's going on as we walk is absolute nonsense. We can see the future and we can see the past, we can see the present. They all exist all at once, but they are there. The potentials are there. They can see potentials. And some potentials are bigger than other potentials, and that's what remote viewers look for when they're going into the timeline and looking ahead. And as he has gone on record to say, he and his team, they came across an incident with these solar flares. He calls it the kill shot, and the way that they describe it is they're quite concerned because they see a very big event happening on the horizon, and it has to do with solar flares. And basically the solar flares are going to knock down the communication networks, and it's going to cause quite a few problems. The other thing that Major Ed Dames originally said was that part of the reason for these major mega solar flares, because these are killer solar flares, is a object passing as well, a very big object passing. Well, that big object would be Planet X. Now, if you go onto YouTube, you can actually find Major Ed Dames. He's all over YouTube. You can find his interviews. You can find the original film that he did that discusses the kill shot. I think he must have made that film, I don't know, a good 10, 15 years ago. He's released a new updated film just now for 2012, when you can see he's older and everything and he's talking. And he doesn't actually go into Planet X, but he still does talk about the kill shot. And I'm of the mind that he doesn't discuss Planet X in terms of being associated with these mega flares, because basically I think someone is telling him to keep quiet. But he is trying to get the word out, so that is what they're seeing. Now, will these things come to pass? Well, as I say, when you're looking on the timeline, there's certain potentials. How those potentials factor out is another thing, and we can see something happening and we don't get the full picture. You see what I'm saying? So we don't really know. But what we do know is we need to be aware of a few things. There's certain signs to look for. I get people contacting me about Planet X and should I be worried? And I said, well, when you look up in the sky and you can see a little red dot sitting next to the sun, that's when you worry. At the moment, we can't fully see it. It is there, but it's still not close enough yet. It is causing us some issues. It is the reason for the major earthquakes. The intensity of the earthquakes is part of the reason for why all of that is happening. So, there is time. I wouldn't worry, but just, be aware of this type of stuff, and inform yourself. Go do the research and find out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it or anybody else's word for it. So that's that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about. The other thing is people are saying that they are seeing, they've heard reports of black boxes coming up onto shore. Very, very large black boxes coming up onto shore. And there's some images of them. I'm going to try to track down some images and see if I can add them to my website. There's a section there on my website called Future Talk where I I talk about some. I've uploaded some videos that are discussing some of the things I was just saying, like with the solar flares and things like that. And I'll see if I can find some images of these black boxes because they're quite interesting. But basically, just in short, just to let people know, they're not our technology. Let's put it that way. Governments have been spotting them, and they've been taking them away to facilities to do testing on them, and from what they're reporting, they're going missing, so they're disappearing or something like that. But the word is that they're helping to stabilize the Earth's core, because what's going on as well is that the magnetosphere is thinning, and this is another thing that the scientists are quite concerned about. They can't explain it. They don't know why, but it is dramatically thinning. There is actually a hole in the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere is our shield. So when we have these solar flares, when we get that radiation coming from the sun in large bursts, hurtling towards Earth, the magnetosphere is what helps to shield out a lot of that radiation. So it keeps us safe. Now, when that gets into the Earth and into the Earth's core, it affects things, and it affects our DNA. It changes how the DNA actually evolves. So it's quite serious to the scientists, but those of us that know what's going on this planet, that it's shifting and we are raising in frequency and going to into a new cycle, it actually makes a lot of sense, and that is the scientific proof for it. So lots of things going on there. So as I was saying, in terms of the magnetosphere, it's got a hole in it, and the scientists are quite concerned. And they're hoping, they have actually sent up a couple of satellites just this last week, around the 17th of Feb, which they're trying to get some further information as to what's going on. But they're really at a loss. So, this planet is rocking and rolling, and there's a lot of things going on that can't be explained, and there are things out there that are kind of overlooking and just monitoring. So these black boxes are basically helping to keep the Earth's core, let's say, just balanced for the time being, as much as it possibly can. So there is a bit of help there. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to play a song, and I'm going to be joined by my guest, Tony. He's with me here in the studio. We lost Whitney Houston, this month, and once I finish talking with Tony, I'll go back into a few of those things. We'll talk about the performance at the Superbowl, Nicki Minaj, and the very strange death of Whitney Houston, because it's all linked. And I'll tell you my insights on that one. So if you just stick around for a sec, I'm going to play a song that I used to enjoy listening to by Whitney, because Whitney's straight out of my teen years, and I had the Whitney hair, I had the Whitney look, and people used to tell me I looked like her as well. So I was a big fan of hers when I was growing up as a teenager, and I bought this album in 1985. This was her debut album, and I bought this album, and this song, I played the mess out of it. I played this song over and over and over and over and over. I absolutely love it. So while we are taking a break, I'm playing this song, and on the other side I'm going to be joined by Tony Bourdet. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Right, so that was Whitney Houston, Thinking About You, from her debut album way back in 1985. And I am Valentine St. Aubin, and you are listening to Esoteric Discussions. I'm here every other Wednesday evening from 9, and we talk about all things strange and bizarre that goes on in the world. But we talk about other things too of interest, and that's useful. And I've got a very special guest with me in the studio this evening. His name is Tony Bourdet. And he is a personal trainer and also a rehabilitation consultant. Is that a good way to say it?
Cardiac
Consultant. and he's going to be talking about health and fitness and the right kinds of foods to use for the body. You know, because many of us are feeling the effects. I was just talking about the solar flares at the beginning of the show. Even if you have no idea what I was talking about, it's affecting us emotionally. It affects the physical body. Many people have been coming down with strange illnesses. They're feeling quite lethargic, having strange symptoms. So getting the right diet, the right kind of exercise are all things are important. So we're going to talk about a few things this evening that might be useful to you. So I'm going to allow Tony to come on and introduce himself. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Tony. How did you start as a personal trainer? What's your background?
First of all, very good evening to everyone listening this evening, and I'd like to thank you, Shelley, to invite me. So kind of you to invite me after a long day. Yes. Well, I started 6 years ago and was a lifeguard, and decided I was a lifeguard, but I was working for BA, flying, and I was like you, fascinated by the world of the sky. Yeah. And I remember at each time I was actually looking at the sky. I was so focused on. I used to sit in front of the aircraft and really looking and observing the sky, and often I was just an early morning looking at the sun rising, and it was interesting because you look at the shape of the atmosphere, and you see you in a tube and you're flying like very fast, and you can see the plane actually just crossing at a very high speed, and you see different aircraft actually in the sky as well. But to come back to the subject of your fascination about the UFO.
Oh, my fascination with it. Well, yeah, everyone knows that I'm fascinated with them.
We know that. We hear that every time, my friend.
There's no secret. Yeah, I believe in aliens. I'm not embarrassed to say that.
No, of course. Yeah. But it is interesting to see. I used to sit basically on the front of the aircraft, and I used to just focus and observe the sunshine. I was more interested by the sunshine and the cloud. And it was just like, for me, it was like you feel, it was a relief of energy, and I felt really in my own world, you know. So I'm not going to spend all evening talking about that, because I know you invited me to talk about fitness. Not
but you can go on these levels, and that's where we do connect.
Well,
in that
the
way.
thing is, you could when you actually look, really, if you people have an experience with on an aircraft day after days, when you fly an aircraft, and you'll see you actually observe, and you see really the atmosphere on a different level of l'ozone. I don't know if you understand l'ozone, and you can actually see the difference between when you really focus and you're trying to see an end of it, but you cannot, because it's well behind. Do you understand what I'm trying to discuss? So anyway, I was like for 9 years, and at part-time I was doing actually I was a lifeguard and tennis coaching. Okay. And so after few years we closed the base, and I decided to go to, I was going to Birmingham, and decided to change career. So I went into study for sports massage at the beginning. So I wanted to the relaxation, the power of touch. Yes. And what's difference between when you actually have
noise outside.
Yes. The power of touch is actually the people with injury, and so I went into all this. So I did the anatomy and physiology, and after a while I decided to go in. I was already into fitness and decided to do the work into fitness. I decided to actually learn more about people, because it's about people. Like you learn about people. You know, you observe, you check. As we all, every single individual are not happy about their 95% of people are not happy with the way they look. You know?
Especially as you age and you get older.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, especially the age. Yeah, people will notice as you age. There is a trend. Officially, why do you think we age?
I think it's mindset. I think, obviously the body is going to age, the organs are going to age, but I think the rapid aging that some people tend to show in their face, in their body, I think it's got a lot to do with what's going on up here in their head and their outlook on how they're living their life, I would say, is a big contribution.
Healthy living lifestyle.
Yes,
where
absolutely.
So in fitness level, we will describe this as your food intake and also your lifestyle plan as well, and your genetic, more like
genetic disposition.
Yeah, very important. We don't ask to be looking like we are, you know. Unfortunately, we have some genetic from our parents, from our family, and these genetic roots exist. And this genetic sometimes are created that we have disease, and it's so to come back on as we were talking, most of it, the reason we're getting old is because the oxygen we breathe. If you look in the mountains, when we go high in training facilities, most of the sports people go into very high.
They do,
to training because the lack of oxygen. Okay. So that's the lack of oxygen will adapt themselves and only on demand. So they improve their performance. You see, so I was looking if you have when you breathe, just one sniff of oxygen will destroy more than 1 million molecules.
Really?
Each time you breathe.
Really?
Yeah. So that's like a detonation. Oxygen is actually a detonation.
I see.
And it's very basic. If you look, oxygen, it's a bomb. It's actually a device for an explosive.
Yes, that's
true.
So
if you already like into your relaxation, you will notice that when you actually lay down, if you control your body, your mind, you will see you will notice that the burn around your nose, just between your nostril, and you will feel, if you concentrate on it, you will feel this sensation of burn, and that's what is called the explosion of oxygen, and that actually destroys the oxygen, your molecules. That's the reason, and they won't reproduce this molecule.
Okay.
And that's the really the theory. If we wasn't breathing this oxygen and we will remain alive, then we will remain still as young as we are all the time. We will growth. The growth of this of oxygen. This growth we through our lifestyle from when you're a baby to now is due to the oxygen we're breathing, actually.
Wow, I've never heard that before. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's why people, a lot of people use a poison called injection. They're using a special injection of oxygen now to actually kill the epidermis into the skin to develop and to avoid any wrinkles, and they're using animals.
Is that the Botox thing?
Well, no, there's a different one now. It's to do with oxygen. Okay. So they will actually is to contract the muscles, you see, and so the epidermis do not actually you kill. But they've got a different. The technology is getting better and better every day. Botox is a poison. Everyone knows that. You know, that can create cancer. That can create a different. But is everyone. It's not everybody. Is more because dentists, doctors do it, implement it because they actually make money out of it.
Yeah, so it's always about money.
But people who think, yeah, you're going to get a benefit, yeah, it's a temporary benefit. But now they develop new things in France, I believe, or it's come to London. It's with oxygen, and there's it's also an injection with just tiny needles, and it will keep your skin a bit younger, but it's all about vanity, as we say. It costs a lot of money to perform this kind of thing. So all this is into development still. Every year there's a new product coming out into the subject, and so to develop to get progress on it, you know. But anyway, to come back on terms of after training, to come back on training, I've decided to do the personal training, fitness instructor training, because I feel that I'm training myself a lot of the time, and I spend a lot of my time running. And you do run as well, don't you?
Run, yes, I do.
Yeah. So, and I want to help people. I want to share with people that cardiovascular is an important part of our body, and it helps as well when you're angry, when you have stress, and because in the aminoamide B cells, and you got the endorphin. So it help a lot of people, mental people. We're talking about more than obesity, and people with getting more type 2 diabetic as well.
Right, okay.
Obesity is probably the most important part now in our culture. Teenager shouldn't be obese now.
Yes.
Why do you think people are obese?
Well, this is what my next question I was going to come to you on is, so, you know, obviously you have this work where you're working with people, and most people that are coming to you because they have an issue with weight. I would say, obviously, what's causing what's contributing to this weight gain is obviously the quality of the food, or the lack of quality of food around in the food chain. So talk to us about what you have found in terms of food and diet, and maybe give people some tips of what to look for, what to keep away from, because obviously, as you're saying, the obesity is becoming a very, very big issue. It's amongst youngsters, older people.
Well, it's a vicious circle, obesity, Shelley, and the reason people get most of it become obese, or we know, like the normal body fat inside your body should be between 19 to 25%. Okay, and above that, there's an alarm rising that you become overweight after 25%.
Right.
Okay, and this percentage rising due to the parents of an background education, and they don't eat the right food intake, and that's not because we eat. It's just a lack of activity, the lack of people are not interested really. They do spend their time on a computer. Most of the technology make people want to go into basically into. They don't use a car. They use a car. They
don't go out and get fresh air. They're not on their feet. They're not moving their bodies around.
Why do we feel that, especially in around Europe's now? It's touching Europe's now. You know, it's not touching people who outside in the sunshine. Who it doesn't touch. It's quite surprising. Why? It's interesting. Why it doesn't touch people the obesity is more in Europe and also America. But we're looking into 1 billion worldwide.
That's a lot, isn't it?
And overweight, which 300 million are clinically obese.
Right.
So it's a figure from increasing every single day. And the reason behind this is there's a lot of choice of food in the shop. You look people, they don't need to buy all this food. It's not necessary to spend money, and it'd be much better sometimes just to give yourself a target. But people do want to spend more than they need to. A lot of waste in your country. A lot of waste of food are if you go into the certain area, you see the bin full of food. I see people putting a lot of waste. That's serious, because a country who haven't got much food, you see famine, rise in Africa. You understand that you ask yourself, is it real? How can we become on that scales? So it is one of the reasons we are a very wealthy country. We're living in a very wealthy, and so the wealth make you want more.
But it's the quality, though, isn't it? Where we can have more, but we're having more junk. We're having not good quality of food as well. I was talking to a colleague of yours, and we were talking about the nutritional value within a banana is now much less than it was years back, because they're picking them quite early, so they're not ripening properly. So you think you're having a certain amount of nutritional value within that banana, but you're not. So even though we've got the wealth, we've got the money, but it seems like we're just going backwards.
The banana, it's a very good example you gave me just now. Right, banana is one of the fruit of the most exported into worldwide, you know, and full of magnesium, full of all the goods, but is really high in calorie, actually, on carbs, and but really good on potassium, and very good also on to have when you do an activity, sports activity, you know, but the banana, I do eat banana myself, but you're looking at that banana is full of radioactivity because they exported in from aircraft.
Right.
And on the aircraft, from the sun, you get because they when they travel, they will get some kind of radioactivity. Is a fruit the most exposed to radioactivity, and that's been proved.
I see. Yeah. So what would you suggest to someone? They've come to you, like I've come to you.
You haven't yet.
I'm coming to you.
I'm still waiting.
I'm starting next week.
Good. Welcome on board.
They say, I want to change my life. I want to lose some weight. What's the one of the first things you do to start working with them?
The first thing is to be ready for start mentally. You have a excess of weight. We call that body fat, which is in excess within adipose tissue. This storage through the day you intake for most of human being is 2,500 calories. Above that, you need to be an athlete, sports, exercise, or you are some serious metabolism rate who is fast. So all depends through officially with your size, height, weight, your height and everything. The more you eat, the more you are overweight, the more you actually need more calorie because your heart's beating faster.
Oh, okay.
The absorption.
Okay.
So you will tend to, because your heart's beating faster, you're burning more calorie, so you'll tend more to eat more.
Right.
But somebody will start with me, Shelley, to answer your question. I will say to somebody, it's officially to be ready mentally and to be prepared to put the hard work, and also to to adapt. I'll adapt myself to the patient. We all have a different level of format of genetic and exercise ability. And for that, you need to be, myself is to adapt myself to the patient, and then to motivate them. And then you work together, but you need to compromise with food as well, to have a special diet.
You have to learn to eat differently.
Your intake shouldn't exceed the amount of through the day, and your exercise should exceed that we used to be before.
Right.
So it's only a change of lifestyle. We call that the SMART goal. SMART goal means special. There is a specific, and then your goal is for your lifestyle. Okay, so you're SMART. So you got the action and the recovery, and then after you got the goal through what you're looking for. So you can write a plan. I always say to people, if you want to really looking different, is to write down what you eat on a specific amount.
Yeah, because you don't really realize what you're eating until you really start addressing it and looking at it. You really don't.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, this is all very interesting. I know you've had a long day, so I'm not going to keep you much longer.
It's fine, lovely.
Tell us about your gym. For those that are in the Peterborough area that are listening to this, and if they're interested in maybe contacting you, tell us about your gym and the facilities that you offer and how they can get in touch.
Well, I'm offering a personal training officially to people. It's a concept on one-to-one. It's private. Some people don't like to be on view of others, so I've set it up for a private studio, and with all the main equipment to be used. Every single session is different. You don't repeat the same exercise. A lot of people say, I can't understand. I've never done the same exercise with you, Tony. And that's what I say. That's the beauty about it. Oh. I don't want to repeat yourself.
Interesting.
And so that's one of my things, Shaylee. But everyone is successful as long as you put the hard work. But also, diet is very important. And everybody's ability to perform an exercise is different, and especially somebody who has it takes time. It takes time to. It doesn't come overnight. It's only on a book. Books is a very fast inflation because you have to sell the book. You know. So
it's back down to the money again.
Yeah, exactly. You have to sell. You have to. So that's the reason.
Okay, so tell us your website. What's the address?
What's the address? So the address is fitnesswithane.co, and that's it. And basically, I'm just very easy access and free car park.
There's a free car park, so there's no issues with the parking. Cool.
Well, yes, there is, but I won't go to the politics in here.
But you can bring a car if you need to.
Yeah, I won't go into the politics and add this area right here. Yeah, anyway,
car parks are always a touchy subject in this country. It's just how it is.
Yeah, no, in this is a touchy subject here at Norfolk Street.
Yeah, yeah, no. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Shelley. It's a pleasure to hear from you.
Very, very interesting.
I hope so.
Some of the things that you shared, and and of course your wide open mind as well.
What do you mean, my wide open mind?
Your ability to understand, the UFO thing, and your
yes,
as well.
Yes.
I liked how you started off your conversation.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate.
Set it up nicely.
Well, you see, the UFO. It's I don't think we put enough time for it.
No, we don't have enough time for it tonight.
No, but we don't put enough time because people don't want to put enough time because they don't bring any money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I love you. Our producer is coming to look at me. So come on, get off. Okay.
All right. I'm going to close your mic, Tony. Thank you very much for
You're
joining
welcome.
us
Pleasure anytime.
And check out You can check out his gym. Just go online. I'll have the link for his website on my website, so you can check all that information out. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to play another Whitney song, and when I come back, I have just enough time just to go and discuss the issue that I was talking about with the Madonna performance, Nicki Minaj, and then Whitney's death, all back to back. I have already gone into the symbolism of Madonna's performance at the Super Bowl in the last show, so I'm not going to go over that again, but I'm just going to pick up some points. So we're going to take a break, and here's another Whitney track. All right, so that's Whitney. It's Not Right, and that track there is sort of it's quite a very personal insight to, I think, what she was dealing with Bobby Brown. We don't have a lot of time to really go into the whole Whitney issue. I know there's people are very divided about their feelings towards her. Yes, she did have a drug issue, but things are never as they appear. There's always a bigger picture going on, and I'm going to approach it from this point of view. Because as I said, I grew up with Whitney, and Whitney Houston was like one of the last soul singers that we had who was presented in a very clean-cut way. There's a very famous quote of her, and she says it, and you can tell she's afraid of saying it, but she says it, and she says, I don't do soft porn, I entertain. And she's the last of her kind who, were there because of the not only the talent, but the whole look was just very sophisticated. And since Whitney, after Whitney, we've been having within the black community a lot of ghettoization of our black artists. The female artists are very much being paraded as sexual objects. They have the talent, they can sing beautifully, I'm not saying that they can't, but that is definitely going on. And Whitney was the last of her kind. And even the movie The Bodyguard that she was in with Kevin Costner, if you remember that role, it put her into a very powerful and uplifting light, and it was ahead of its time, because even back in 1992 it was very taboo for a black woman to be seen with a white man, having for the black woman to be seen as attractive and that kind of thing, and to be with a white man. So she was at the height of a time where we could have gone into a different direction, and we weren't taken there. We were taken backwards. And I'm going to say this, and I think those that are in the know and who have eyes and who can see can see this too. Now, I was a Bobby Brown fan. I went to a Bobby Brown concert when I was a teenager. I did it. I grew up with New Edition. They're about the same age as me. I know the music. I know them. And Bobby Brown, he was successful. He was a good singer, but he was not of the level of Whitney. And when they came together, we were all sort of mystified, because we couldn't figure out how they could ever have anything in common, because they were so different. But I definitely feel that Whitney was being attacked through Bobby Brown, and there's many reasons to support that. One of the reasons is Whitney gives a very open interview with Oprah. This is around 2009, 2010, when she kind of cleaned herself up for a while, and she did say a few things. She could have said more, but she said enough, and she talked about some of the things that Bobby Brown had done to her, like spit in her face after she had given him a birthday party, and he turned around and he just, when they got home, and spat in her face, and the daughter saw it, and it was just really humiliating for her. She said also that he had cut off her head in a portrait that they had of the two of them together and the baby. And also she talks about Bobby Brown drawing eyes everywhere. Now, that might sound crazy to you. This might sound like crazy talk, but if you know your symbolism, and if you know what you're looking at, you understand what was going on there was a psychic attack. Now, I don't think it was completely being orchestrated by Bobby Brown. I think it's coming from a high level, and he was just part of that. But there was definitely something very strange afoot. So, yes, she had her issues, but there was a lot more going on there as well. And I just want to say that because I remember, I enjoyed Whitney's music, and I do think she was paraded through the press very badly. She didn't help herself, but but there you go. And the performance that Madonna did, I had called it as Isis, which is basically what she was invocating. Others are calling her, were saying she was taking on the role of Inanna or Ishtar, Astaroth. They're all manifestations of Isis, basically, and it's all part of the occult in that way. And be under no false illusions. That was a very satanic performance that was being paraded in front of the public, and it shouldn't have been. And also Nicki Minaj went on to the Grammys and took it another step further. The next day, Whitney was dead. There was a ritual that was going on, and this is how these people operate. So what I'm going to say as I'm closing this show is we need to be really careful what we're looking at when you see these types of things going on, because they're going to keep doing this. They're going to get more and more bold with it. Just turn it off. You don't have to look at it, because it comes with a energetic signature, and it's not positive. So that's the way that we can fight back, is we can close our eyes to it and not feed into it. So I am going to end this show. I want to thank Tony for coming in and being a guest. And I want to thank you for listening as usual. And until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.
One station, many communities. It's your radio.